and then let me know when I can go ahead, and then we'll start the recording.
Recording has begun. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Hi, everyone. This is Sue Reynolds with the American Student Achievement Institute. We are beginning our webinar for Guiding All Kids. We're really excited about this webinar. Guiding All Kids is an initiative that we have wanted to do for about 2 decades, and we're finally launching it and just really getting excited by the energy that we're seeing in schools about this systemic approach to school counseling. So a couple of introductions. Just wanted to talk with you since we haven't met many of you participating on this call. We just want to introduce you to the American Student Achievement Institute. We are a nonprofit. We were founded in 2000 by Indiana school counselors. So we have a school counseling focus to all of our work. We do work nationally. We're doing redesigning school counseling in 39 different states, but we're housed here in Bloomington, Indiana, although we have a virtual staff and virtual offices around the state, and Debbie works out of Indianapolis, and Janet works out of New Albany. So our mission with ASA is it's very simple and very broad, to raise achievement and to close achievement gaps. But our expertise is in data-driven systemic change. I was very fortunate many years ago to be part of another Lilly initiative where Lilly took school counselors and mentored them big time over multiple years in systemic change applied to school counseling. And a lot of those lessons have come out both in redesigning school counseling, but also in Indiana Gold Star School Counseling as well as RAMP. So, so that's where we think we have some expertise that we can share with you, and that's just how to develop a data-driven school counseling program as well as using a systemic approach to school counseling. We really like developing statewide initiatives and also doing it bottom-up, so grassroots initiatives. Redesigning school counseling has started out that way and developed into Gold Star School Counseling, as well as several of our other initiatives. So, and then just a little bit about me and kind of where I'm coming from, and therefore as the founder of ASA, where ASA is coming from. I was a school educator. I worked in the public schools in Indiana for 20 years. During the time that I worked as a school counselor, I developed redesigning school counseling and the Guiding All Kids model. I was very fortunate to be named the Indiana High School Counselor of the Year and also the ASCA National High School Counselor of the Year. Those awards were nice, but I always felt like they should have been given to our entire community and the entire school, because we did use a systemic approach. And because of our systemic approach, we were able to put so many more initiatives in front of kids and activities, do activities with kids. And that's one of the reasons why I've always been so excited about Guiding All Kids and have just been waiting for the time where we could really introduce this in a big way to schools. So in terms of professional associations, I was ISCA's, the Indiana School Counselor Association. I was ISCA's first executive director and held that position for about 10 years. And then I also served on the ASCA board, and when I was on the ASCA board, I proposed the ASCA National Standards, which that's one of the contributions to my profession that I think I'm the most proud of, that, you know, we got those standards going at the national level. I also chaired ASCA's first comprehensive school counseling task force, and I chaired their National Leadership Development Institute, where we basically taught RSC to the president and the president-elect from every state school counseling association. So now, as we're seeing different leaders evolve in data-driven school counseling, almost all of them were participants in that National Leadership Development Institute, so that's been pretty cool. I worked at the Department of Ed for 10 years as the school counseling consultant, and during that time we launched the Indiana standards for student guidance for school counseling programs, and also the licensing standards for school counselors. We wanted all three of those standards to be integrated, so we did that all at once. And then also when I was at DOE, we launched the Indiana Gold Star School Counseling Award that was based on those program standards. So I founded ASE, did ASE as a hobby in my free time in the summers for a long time. And then, oh gosh, maybe 8 years ago, was able to bridge to doing ASE full-time. So that's kind of how we were founded, and just wanted to let you know that in our hearts, we are school counselors. We're just practicing in a different way than school counselors in schools are. So, okay. So, guiding all kids then. In a nutshell, it is a systemic approach to school counseling. And there's a couple of big keys to it. One is for all students. So all students receive coordinated guidance and counseling from school counselors, teachers, community organizations, and parents. And as a result of that, all students make sound choices in areas that support their social emotional health, their academic success, their high school graduation, their post-secondary access and completion, and choices that lead to then productive employment and responsible citizenry in a global society. So if you are familiar with the Lilly Endowment RFP for their new counseling initiative, you can see that those 5 bullet points align almost perfectly, actually perfectly, with the Lilly RFP, the aim of the Lilly RFP. So in that, when we read that RFP, we thought, oh, bingo, this is exactly where we are headed anyway. So this funding is a real good match for both redesigning school counseling and guiding all kids. So, okay, before I go on, I want to talk about just a couple of definitions so kind of we're all talking the same language. We believe that the scope of school counseling is these 4 areas: counseling, guidance, advocacy, and management. And let's just talk about each of those words so as I use them, you'll know what I'm talking about. So we talk about direct services. So when students or when counselors are face-to-face with kids or parents, they're doing either guidance or counseling. So they're direct services. Guidance is the help that all students need and receive from a whole bunch of people, their parents, teachers, counselors, community members, and the purpose of that guidance is to help them make sound choices in areas that impact academic success. So key word there is all. All students need guidance, just like all students need math or all students need English language arts. All students in your schools need guidance so that they're making good choices in areas that will impact their academic success, every single kid. Counseling, on the other hand, is the help that not all kids need, but some students receive. And this time they're not getting that assistance from a lot of different folks, but they're receiving assistance from credentialed professionals. And that assistance will help them address personal and social issues that are interfering with their learning. So again, it's not for some students. If your school is typical, about 1 in 5 students has brought a social or emotional concern to school that is interfering with their ability to learn. So as you're walking up and down the halls, you can just, kind of picture that. Every 5th kid that you pass maybe has a social personal issue that is making it hard for them to learn. And by credentialed professionals, we mean people that are licensed in a helping profession. So a licensed school counselor, a licensed school psych, or a licensed school social worker. So that's counseling. It's not for all kids. It's for kids who have a social personal issue that's interfering with learning. And then guidance is for all kids because we want every single student in your building to make sound choices. Okay. Then indirect services, these are services that counselors provide when they're not face-to-face with kids that we believe are legitimate uses of their time. One is advocacy. That's when counselors are behind the scenes maybe at a meeting or a group meeting or a meeting with their principal, and they're advocating for systemic change. They're advocating for a change in the environment that's going to support learning for all kids. For example, let's say that there's a course that has a some kind of piece of equipment that students have to buy, and as a prerequisite for the course, students have to have that piece of equipment. And low-income students can't afford that piece of equipment. So it may be that the counselors then are being advocates for their low-income students or their free and reduced lunch kids, and they're saying, wait a minute, you know, some kids can't afford this class, and so they're becoming advocates for those kids. Counselors can also be advocates for individual students who may be having in a situation where something is happening that's not fair, and so the counselor may stand up for that individual student. So we believe that advocacy is a legitimate and necessary role of the school counselor. And then the other indirect service is all the management that counselors do behind the scenes to make their school counseling program run smoothly and efficiently. So what you're doing right now, exploring, doing some exploration of a different kind of program, that we would consider that management. Or when you go to school in the morning and you're writing passes for kids, that's management. Or when you're evaluating your program, that's management. So it's not things that make the school run efficiently, like generating report cards or calculating GPAs or coordinating statewide tests. That would not be management, because that doesn't help the school counseling program to run efficiently. So when we're talking about management, we're talking about just the things that make the school counseling program run efficiently. All of those other things that have nothing to do with guidance, counseling, advocacy, or management, we call those tasks non-program tasks. We know that counselors do it. I can tell you in my first counseling job, I was spending 90% of my time doing things that had nothing to do with guidance or counseling. 90% of my time. So when 90% of our time is with non-program tasks, and again, they're legitimate tasks. Somebody has to calculate those GPAs. But when we're doing non-program tasks, it takes us away from providing services for kids and parents. Okay. One last word that I want to define before we go on is the word all. And when we say guiding all kids, we really mean all. That is, it's every single student in the building. Usually we find that school counseling services are pretty spotty, and in my own program, before we started looking at a different delivery method, our services were spotty. We tended to provide a lot of services for kids who were college prep kids because their parents would refer them to us. Their parents would say, I think it's about time to fill out a financial aid form. Go down and ask your counselor for it. We also served the troublemakers a lot because their teachers would refer them to us, and we tended to serve special ed kids because the law makes them have an annual case conference, and we would go to those case conferences as their advocates. So we started thinking there's a lot of kids who don't fall into those three groups, and they were not getting any services at all from their counselors. So we wanted to design a program in guiding all kids and redesigning school counseling in RSC. We also want those programs to hit every single student in your building, no exception. Okay, so what we find is that when counselors' roles are not defined, when the program is not defined, we tend to get that spotty implementation. One of the reasons because we have too few school counselors. When principals don't know what counselors do or don't understand what counselors are qualified to do, they tend to give a lot of their extra work that they have to do to counselors because they're overworked. And if they don't understand what a counselor does, it's real easy to give their tasks to counselors. Also, when there needs to be riffs, it's really easy to riff a counselor if you don't understand what a counselor does. You don't understand that you're riffing a program, you're just riffing an individual. When it comes to hiring folks, it's really hard to make a case for hiring counselors if you don't understand the benefits that they provide for students. So counselor time use can really be impacted and lead to spotty implementation. Okay, so now when we're talking about redesigning school counseling, it really is, and guiding all kids, it really is a two-step process. So Guiding All Kids is going to start out with redesigning school counseling. In the first year, schools will create a vision for school counseling. They'll create their program goals and their priority goals. They'll figure out what their root causes are. Those are the things that are getting in the way of them reaching their goals. Um, and they'll develop their activities. So that will happen in the first year. Then after the first year, in the next 3 years, we'll figure out how to implement different delivery methods so that we can put into place as many activities as possible. So we'll talk about the traditional counselor delivery method. We'll set up a teacher advisor program. We'll set up a community-based guidance initiative. We'll look at integrating guidance activities into the academic classrooms, and then we'll look at parent-based activities. So basically, in the first year, it'll be redesigning school counseling, and then after that, we'll move into these different delivery methods in Guiding All Kids. So this is how it'll work. If your school has recently participated in redesigning school counseling, then you're going to go immediately to Guiding All Kids. And in the first year of the 4 years with us, we'll help you set up a community-based guidance initiative. In the second year, you'll set up the teacher advisor program. At the third year, we'll look at integrating guidance activities into the academic curriculum. And then we'll look at developing in the fourth year the parent-based initiative, and we'll work on sustaining this without additional funding. If you've never received Gold Star, or if your Gold Star is ready to be renewed, which means you would have received it in 2014 or before, then you will spend that first year doing redesigning school counseling. And then the next 3 years, you'll do Guiding All Kids. So we'll start out with a community-based initiative, then we'll put in place a teacher advisor program, and then in that fourth year with us, we'll look at academic integration, parent-based delivery, and then also sustaining. So basically, if you've never done RSC, or your RSC is ready for renewal, we'll do RSC in that first year, and then we'll do Guiding All Kids in the next 3 years. Okay, so that's kind of it in a nutshell. I wanted to put that up front so that you could kind of be thinking about, okay, is my school going to be doing RSC next year, or is my school going to immediately be going into Guiding All Kids? Okay, so let's talk then about redesigning school counseling. This will be a review for those of you who are doing RSC recently or are doing it right now. And this will be new information if you've never done RSC before. So this will be just a quick overview. So first of all, RSC is quite different than other school counseling programs in our approach. We think that school counseling should be very much aligned with academic achievement. And so when we're helping schools design a school counseling program, we start with the school's academic achievement goals. We'll pull those goals out of your school improvement plan. Principals love that because from the get-go, your school counseling program is going to help your principal and the rest of your school reach its academic goals. Then, once we know what those academic goals are, we spend time deciding what choices do students need to make in order for us to reach those academic goals. So for example, if you're high school and one of your goals is to help students succeed in an AP assessment, AP test, one of the first choices kids are going to have to make if you're trying to increase the percentage of graduates who have succeeded in an AP class, one of the first choices you're going to have to make is one of the first choices students are going to have to make is for them to enroll in an AP class Another choice might be to get extra help when they're not doing well. That would be a choice kids would need to make. So we'll tease out all those choices. And then we'll talk about, okay, how do we design guidance activities that would help kids make those choices, or how do we put in counseling activities if we have students who have personal social issues that are interfering with their ability to make all choices. So the guidance and counseling activity design is based on those student choices. Student choices then become the entire focus of the RSC school counseling program. And you can see then it's a data-driven school counseling program, because once we know what those choices are, we'll put baseline data to them, we'll design your program, you'll implement the program, and then we'll see our more students making the choices that we want them to make. Okay, so that's kind of the design model in a nutshell. In the RSC process, as you go through, you'll have a steering team and a very broadly based school counseling council. And that group will have discussions, and out of those discussions, you'll come up with different products. You can see these really are the components of a strategic plan. So you have the vision statement, program goals. We'll look at expanding resources, including getting the Lilly implementation grant or other funds that you can bring in, as well as time resources. Then you'll set priority goals. You'll identify your root causes, or what's getting in the way of kids making those choices we want them to make. And then you'll figure out, okay, what delivery methods are we going to use? If you're Guiding All Kids school, it would be all 5 delivery methods. And then you'll design the activities. In RSC, for schools that do RSC as a standalone, most of the activities are counselor-based activities. So it's a traditional school counseling program if it's RSC all by itself, and the activities are implemented by counselors. Okay, so our mission in RSC is to increase the percentage of students who do those 6 things, and you'll see perfect alignment with that, with the Lilly call for proposals, the request for proposals, RFP. So perfect alignment with Lilly, and that just happened. We didn't have to try to align our work with Lilly, because when it came out, it already was. So, and then the goal of RSC is to increase the percentage of targeted students who make targeted choices in areas that impact the mission. So example, to increase the percentage of all students who turn in their homework on time, to increase the percentage of all 5th graders who have started a post-secondary savings plan, 8th graders who have completed a 4-year high school course plan, and the percentage of free and reduced 12th graders who complete a FAFSA. So, so some of the examples will be social personal example. Some of the choices will be social personal choices. Some will be career choices. Some will be academic choices. Okay, and then in terms of RSC accountability, RSC schools typically hold themselves accountable for increasing the percentage of students in the targeted student group who make those targeted choices. Okay, in RSC there's a process. You're looking at the process page in our online system, and you can see it's just a step-by-step process, and you just work through the process. We provide you tools. At the end of each step you enter stuff online. Occasionally you submit things to us for us to review. So you'll start out by setting up your organizational structure. You'll collect data, and then you'll hold a series of discussions during the RSC year with your council that will end up being those products that we talked about. Okay, a side benefit of RSC is that we make sure that you meet all of the requirements for the Indiana Gold Star School Counseling Award, as well as the National ASCA Model Program Award. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 1 basically is getting in place a traditional counselor-based school counseling program that is data-driven and helps students make sound choices in areas that are going to impact achievement. Okay, so now step 2 of Guiding All Kids is to expand the delivery methods. So on the screen, you're seeing that there is at the very top, the traditional counselor activities, but then we're also going to drop in teacher advisor activities, community-based guidance activities, parent activities, and academic teacher activities that are integrated within the academic curriculum. And then there may be other delivery methods out there that schools will come up with as they work with us. These are the 5 that we are familiar with. Although as I speak, I'm thinking of one school in Fort Wayne that we worked with many years ago that had a coach delivery method where every coach provided guidance activities for the students that they were coaching. So there's probably lots of other ideas as well. Okay, then when we design the Guiding All Kids program, this is kind of what it would look like. This is like the master plan. And this might be a plan for 9th grade. And basically it would work like this. So a steering team would get together and you'd be looking at data during the RSC process and you'd be saying, okay, one choice we want kids to make is for them to turn in their homework. Then you're just kind of putting together the pieces. One activity might be an activity that happens in math classrooms where math teachers are reviewing how to calculate an average. And while they do that, they have kids calculate their GPA. That's a real-world application of that academic content. And then during that activity, they look at, okay, what happens if we're calculating a class average, let's say, and there's an assignment that's not turned in. So we'll add in a 0 for that assignment, and then let's calculate the class average. And then they say, okay, now let's say the student turned that assignment in, but they got an F, 59%. Now let's add in that 59% and see what that does to the class average. So we're really teaching kids about the impact of a 0, of something that's not turned in. Then, in addition to that, in the 9th grade teacher advisor program, they're introducing students to a homework log. And at the same time, we're doing an online activities that parents have access to where we teach parents about homework logs and invite parents to check their students' homework log on a daily basis. So we have 3 different types of activity providers, none of whom are the counselors. So there's other people that are delivering these activities. Maybe another choice is to get kids to come to school. So we do a TAP activity, teacher advisor activity on personal responsibility. There's a community organization that provides an incentive for perfect attendance. The counselors are going to start meeting with students who have high absenteeism in a group counseling setting, which by the way I did, and it was highly successful at getting kids to come to school. And then in the teacher advisor program, the advisors are meeting one-on-one with students and encouraging the students who have high attendance issues to establish a personal goal for better attendance, and then the teacher advisor is monitoring that the student's progress towards meeting that goal on a very frequent basis. So this is how it works. So we have all these different providers, and they're all kind of coordinating the services that they're providing for kids. So that's how it would work. And of course, we would have one of these master plans for every grade in your school, and they would all be based on the choices that you want the students to make. Okay. Here are, and I'm not going to go through all of this, but just to give you some examples of community activities that have been found in schools that we've worked with. So you can see, all the different organizations: Chamber of Commerce, Purdue Extension Homemakers, Economic Development, Cummins Engine, Franklin College, Great Clips, McDonald's, local pizza shop. There's all kinds of activities that different community organizations can implement. In terms of academic integration, that's when we're asking classroom teachers not to do anything new or additional. We're just asking them to give a guidance application to something that they're already teaching. This really makes it real world for the kids. and it makes it, there's a real-world application then that the teachers can use. So there's a whole lot of different activities. One of my favorite ones that my teachers did in my school when we did this was our keyboarding teacher, and keyboarding was a required class. She came to us and she said, I have the students type a meaningless paragraph out of the book every day as a warm-up. She said, if the counselors could give me 180 different little paragraphs about different careers, I could have the kids type that as a warm-up. And so there's there's 180 little, mini guidance lessons. So lots of different creative ways that teachers can integrate what you're doing with their academic classroom. Sample parent activities. We'll be providing an online set of parent activities for you in the fourth year of working with you, but just here's things that, some of these online activities will do. We'll introduce parents to homework logs and, talk with them in an online presentation about checking their kids' homework. We'll do a video on how to create a four-year high school course plan and teach parents how to do that, and then ask them to review their students' four-year high school course plan. So these activities we'll provide for you. You'll just need to recruit parents to be involved in them. And then also, sometimes parents like to design their own programs. We've worked with a school that the parents set up a parent ambassadors program. Another school, an urban school, that had a group of parents that set up community meetings, and then they invited their friends and neighbors to convene locally in a home or a church or whatever, and then invite a member of the school to come talk to them about education. So there's lots of different ways that your parents can get involved. Okay, then want to talk a little bit about teacher advisor programs, because I know that for a lot of you, this is something brand new and it sounds kind of overwhelming in terms of getting it set up and getting buy-in and all of that. So remember that we are going to help you every step of the way. I had a very, very successful school counseling or teacher advisor program when I was in the schools. And our teacher advisor program actually was featured in a book called Breaking Ranks that was published by the National Association of School Principals. And but basically, so I'm going to be talking about the program we had at Indian Creek, but there's all different kinds of ways to do this. So decisions that you have to make as you're setting up a program, and we'll help you make these decisions, is how often is your advisory program going to meet? Mine met once a week. Sometimes advisory programs meet once a marking period, so it doesn't have to be real intensive. Sometimes schools just don't have the time. Duration, we met for 50 minutes with our advisory groups. It can be, very short. It could be a little 15-minute activity. We put in 10 to 15 students per group. We did that by using every available adult in the building to meet with an advisory group. There was only one secretary in the general office that did not have an advisory group, and she was there to just answer the phone and help people that maybe walked into our building during that time. Everybody else had an advisory group. Group makeup, heterogeneous, putting different kids from different backgrounds, different peer groups into the same group to help them, get to appreciate differences. Grade level, we decided to go with a single grade per group, but a lot of schools will do multi-grades in one group. Group makeup is heterogeneous. It was, in our case, where we had lots of different kinds of kids in one group. And then we looped our groups so that the same group of students met together for 4 years with the same advisor, and that really helped those students get to know their advisor and vice versa, as well as to get to know kids from different peer groups. And then I mentioned our advisors were just all different kinds of folks. So the content that we covered in our advisory group, which is normally what I like to teach when we're helping other schools set up advisory programs, is that there's 3 different kinds of activities, but each school will decide the balance between those activities. Our program was heavy on guidance lessons. I had a lot of lessons that I wanted to do that in a traditional program would have been classroom guidance with the counselor going into the classrooms, but there's just one of me in a whole lot of different classrooms. I couldn't get to them all to cover all the content I wanted to cover. So we planted those guidance lessons into our teacher advisor program and then taught the advisors how to deliver those lessons. We also decided that we wanted students to receive academic advising more frequently than the 2 times a year that I could do as a counselor in my traditional school counseling program. So we had advisors meeting with their students once a marking period. They went over the students' report cards with them right after report cards came up, and then they worked with the kids on setting individual academic goals, and they monitored those goals on a very frequent basis. So that was a big help to me, and you can imagine, you know, that advisor only had 12, 15 kids. It was really easy for them to kind of look after those 12 or 15 kids. I had hundreds of kids. There was no way I could do that. And then a third type of activity was developing relationships between kids, but also between the advisor and the students. So we set up things like Hobby Day where students, it's been kind of like show and tell. Kids brought things, their hobbies to school to share with their advisory groups. That was amazing. Kids brought their horses, they brought their motorcycles, they brought their tractors. I mean, it was just really cool, the things that they brought that, you know, were outside of school that we had no idea they were interested in. We set up things like picnics and did art projects, and the reason we did these activities was because each of them had unstructured time where kids could just talk. And during that talk time, they just talked about the things that were of interest to them, and you know, in a way that they could get to know each other, and that their advisors could get to know them. Now, I know as you're listening to this, you're thinking, oh my gosh, my teachers would never do this. Many of my teachers would never do this. They're already my teachers are already overworked, and now we're saying in addition to teaching math, you're going to teach a guidance lesson. So we have helped many, many schools get past this resistance and to really engage their teachers in this initiative so that the teachers want to do a teacher advisor program. So during the year that we help you set this up, we'll be talking big time about who's going to be resistant, where's that resistance going to come from, how are you going to get that past the resistance. We'll be monitoring big time what kind of resistance is popping up, and how are you going to hit it, you know, how are you going to head that off real quickly before it takes hold. And we also want to respect the resistance, because a lot of times people that are resistant have a good reason for being resistant, and so we need to listen to them and see if you know, there's something that we need to be paying attention to. We think resistance is really healthy. It helps us have good discussions, and it helps us to troubleshoot prior to implementation. So at any rate, just wanted to, you know, help you understand that even though this maybe sounds like right now there's no way we could do this, trust me, if you would, we've done this in a lot of different schools, and I think we'll be able to help you get past that resistance and get to the point where people want to do this and really embrace the teacher advisor program. Okay, so here's some assumptions that we're making. We are making this assumption about your school. We're assuming that you are going to have funding for 4 years to support a Guiding All Kids initiative. For some of you, that will come from the Lilly funding. For others of you, it will come from other sources. And then we're also assuming that Guiding All Kids will need to sustain with no funding or very limited funding after that 4 years. So we're going to set this up so that you could sustain this initiative after 4 years with a few bake sales, or your Coke machine money, or a small donation from your PTA, or a small donation from a local business that's serving on your council. So after the 4 years, this is going to be able to sustain, hum along with very, very little funding. Then another assumption that we're making is that most of the funds during that 4 years is going to be used to pay educators for the time that they spend outside of contract hours to develop Guiding All Kids. If you think about it, your counselors, your teachers, your principals, everybody already has a full-time day that they're doing, a full-time job that they're doing during contract hours. So to design and implement something brand new that's comprehensive, that can't happen during the school day. And my guess is that one of the reasons that Lilly made their grant so big is because they knew that. They knew that dollars were going to need to be spent on the development of this, and that's expensive. So we'd like, and we're encouraging schools to think about providing part-time jobs for people, or like extracurricular pay for folks to develop curriculum, to do professional development, to do research, to evaluate the program. All of that can't just be an add-on that happens during the school day. Nobody has time to do that. So, but people do have time, especially if there's a stipend involved, to spend a couple hours a week writing curriculum, or to take, 2 or 3 Saturdays to develop curriculum, or, a few hours a week to oversee an initiative or to recruit community folks. So that's something we really want our schools to think about, is that, this can't happen, we don't feel, during the school day when educators are already busy. The other thing is, you'll see in a minute that we're going to divide the work between a lot of different people so that this is very manageable. And then the fourth assumption is that Guiding All Kids will need to be highly sustainable, and it will be highly sustainable because it's not going to be funding dependent at all after the first 4 years. Okay, so I talked about the timeline, but let me just go over it in a little bit more depth, and then we'll talk about how to apply. So if your school has never been a Redesigning School Counseling school before, or you need to renew your Redesigning School Counseling and your Gold Star, in the first year, you'll be talking about the organizational structure, you'll be doing RSC, and you'll be earning Gold Star and RAMP. In the second year, we're going to expand that organizational structure to become a Guiding All Kids structure, and you'll develop your community-based delivery model. So you'll have the structure for all 5 delivery models all determined. You'll know what choices kids are going to make and what activities everybody's doing. But in that second year, you'll be developing the community-based guidance initiatives. Then in the third year, you'll develop your teacher advisor program. And then in the fourth year, you'll develop academic integration and parent-based activities. Those are actually both really easy. We just float the choices to your academic teachers, and to they decide where they can help you deliver the guidance curriculum. And then the parent-based initiative, that's going to be easy too, because we're going to provide that all for you. All the parent activities will be developed and online for you. And then also in that fourth year, you'll develop a formal sustainability plan. And again, that's not going to be a problem because this is not going to be funding dependent. Okay, so that is for schools that need to do RSC. And then if your school last did RSC in 2015 or 16 or 17, and for some of you that means you're in RSC right now and you actually are going to get the award next November at the 2017 ISCA conference. But if you're in one of those years, we're assuming that your program goals and activities are up to date, your data is up to date, and we can just move right past that RSC step into the implementation of Guiding All Kids. So basically, it's the same thing. We're just taking off that first year of RSC. So in your first year, you'd be starting out with GAC and the GAC structure and doing the community-based program. In year 2, you'll implement the teacher advisor program. In year 3, you'll probably continue implementing the teacher advisor program, but then we'll add on the academic integration. And then in year 4, we'll focus on the parent-based activities and in looking at sustaining the whole thing. So basically, your years are the same as the other non-RSC schools, but we're just going to remove the RSC year first. So, okay, so that's the timeline. Just a little bit about the steering team. We are going to recommend it for Guiding All Kids. So once you get past RSC, a steering team that has 6 members, so kind of a project manager, although their only job is to convene meetings. And then you'll have a counselor, activity coordinator, a TAP coordinator, community coordinator, academic integration coordinator, and parent coordinator. So I've written their tasks over on the right. And basically is just has a lot to do with recruitment, professional development for the providers, and then evaluation and in-flight adjustments. So, okay, so that's the steering team of 6. And then here's what they'll do, what they'll be involved in terms of their development. So unlike redesigning school counseling, all of the professional development for both RSC and Guiding All Kids will be workshop-based. So let me reword that. RSC in the past has been webinar-based. When we do RSC by itself, it's webinar-based. But RSC with Guiding All Kids is going to be workshop-based, and then Guiding All Kids will be workshop-based as well. So in the workshops, this will be a face-to-face learning community. So the team will come to Indianapolis. You'll be sitting in a room with teams from probably 12-ish other schools. Those workshops will happen 3 to 7 times per year. In some years, there's more content to cover and we'll need more meetings. The average number of times will be 5 that your team will come to Indianapolis throughout the year. And then at those workshops, this is a very, very powerful professional development model. This is our preferred model. We unfortunately don't have the funding. Schools don't have the funding to support it, so we go to webinars because that's a lot less expensive. But this model works a million times better. So basically, when you come to one of the workshops, we'll begin by putting everybody there, all 12 schools, into a great big circle. And each school then will have a time to give an update of what they've done since we met last to move their initiative forward, the hurdles that or the challenges that they're facing, things that didn't go well, problems that have come up, and then also their successes. And one at a time, we'll all brainstorm with that school. If there's a challenge, everybody will talk about, okay, what can they do to help get past that challenge? And schools will say, well, here's what I did, and share their ideas. And our staff will be there as well to share ideas. Then the next part will come out of big circle. We'll sit then in teams. So each school will have a round table where they'll sit with the 6 people from their school, and we'll then do a presentation on okay, here are the next steps. Here's what we suggest you do in the next 6 weeks or the next 9 weeks. And we'll kind of give you an idea of the next steps and the resources you have and talk about that. But then, unlike our traditional RSC, we're also going to talk about this change process. We want you to become experts in change. So we'll talk about stages of change. We'll talk about how to engage people in change. And then we'll also talk big time about resistance, especially when we're in the teacher advisor part. We'll talk about designing professional development and what people need at different stages of engagement. When someone's just interested, if you start doing skill building, they will disengage. If somebody's ready for skill building and you're still in the introduction mode, they'll disengage. So we'll provide all of that leadership development content that in webinars we're not able to provide. So we're really looking forward to this, and we think this will make your steering team very, very strong. And then when we meet face-to-face, there will always be an hour, maybe 2 hours at the end of the day that is unstructured time for your team to just do whatever your team needs to do. Typically what that is you'll go back to, okay, what are the next steps and how are we going to pull those off once we get back to school? Or you might have a discussion about, gosh, when they talked about resistance and we did that activity, we noted that, this one teacher is being very resistant, very vocal. How are we going to address that? How, what do we need to do with that? Or is the teacher right and we need to regroup? So there will be that unstructured discussion time at the end of the workshop. In our workshops, we do very little talking. We do a quick presentation, we toss out some ideas, and then it's a lot of school-to-school sharing, and then it's a lot of team time. So it's very, very different than the webinars you might have participated with us in. Okay, and then also you'll be making submissions. So in RSC, there's a lot of submissions because we need to verify the strategic plan and also be able to document that you've met all the Gold Star requirements and the Ask-A-Ramp requirements. And if you're not familiar with RSC, at the end of the process, we just give the Department of Ed a list of schools that have met all the Gold Star requirements, and then ASCA is also notified that you've met all the RAMP requirements. But that means we have to check everything off, so we ask you for a lot of submissions. But then when we get to Guiding All Kids, that's going to be totally different because every school will go somewhere different. One school may decide it wants to have a tiny teacher advisor program, but their community base is going to be huge, or vice versa. Another school may decide they want to implement a different delivery method that no one's ever thought of before. So everything will be different. So in Guiding All Kids, what we'll do, we'll ask you for a few submissions, but basically we'll ask for quarterly one-page summaries. We'll suggest that you write that up to look like a newspaper, a page in a newspaper, and then we'll put those all together to make the Guiding All Kids Times and distribute that so everybody can read what everybody else is doing and get ideas from each other. When we do ask you for submissions, we'll continue to provide the 48-hour feedback to you. Active monitoring again, we'll give you nudges and reminders, make sure that things aren't getting backburnered or forgotten. And then, again, unlimited on-call support. So, okay. Then, in addition to your leadership team, there will be other folks that will help your leadership team. One are grade level coordinators for the teacher advisor program. They'll develop your curriculum, although we are going to give you a full set of TAP lesson plans. There will be 9 lessons for each grade level. So you can either they could just use our lessons or they can develop their own. So either way. The grade level TAP coordinators will also provide early use support for the advisors. Being an advisor takes a lot of teachers out of their comfort level, and so we want to make sure that we're providing support for those teachers when they first start doing it. And then they'll mentor teachers as needed. So those are the grade level coordinators. And remember, we're suggesting stipends for folks. So, the steering team as well as these folks, we will suggest have a stipend for the work that they're doing. The data collection coordinator, and then the documentation coordinator that will do your reports for Lily as well as any submissions that we're asking for. Okay, here's our deliverables. I'm just going to read through the things on the left. So the whole framework, the organizational structure, the development timeline, all of that. Leadership team support that I've talked about already. The online management system that you saw the one page of. The student guidance curriculum that would be appropriate for a teacher advisor program or counselor delivered, or really anyone delivered guidance. Parent activities, that will be a whole set of online activities. There'll be 4 per grade level for parents to do with their children. And then there will be a set of training materials so that you can train your teacher advisors and your community providers in things like what are the limits of confidentiality, when have you crossed the line from being an advisor to a mental health provider. Yeah, so we'll provide lesson plans and PowerPoints and things to use in your training with your non-counselor providers. Searchable guidance activity databases. We have thousands of activities in our database that you can search. Evaluation tools, communication tools, and then district level coordination. And I want to talk about that. That was an add-on last year, and we thought it went really well with our districts. So we're going to not make that an add-on. Everybody would just automatically get that. So basically we'll be providing, and this will be by webinars, we'll provide webinars for your district level teams or a district level person that will coordinate with the face-to-face workshops that we're having with the steering teams. And then we'll also provide for the district level reports of student data and also aggregate school program content like the school goals and school activities so that your district can have a view of what's going on across the district. Okay, so here's the enrollment fee. As you can imagine, with a whole bunch of face-to-face workshops where we feed you and we have room rental expenses as well as our staffing expenses, this gets pretty expensive. So we budgeted this at our cost. And it's basically if you're a school that has recently done RSC, so we're just doing the Guiding All Kids part, your fee would be $7,500 per year for 4 years, or the $30,000 for all 4 years. Or if you've never done RSC or you need to renew and you're also doing Guiding All Kids, it's a $9,000 per year or $36,000 for the total. If you were to have an individual consultant just work with your school alone, this fee would be, 12 times as much. Well, probably not, maybe 4 times as much, but we're able to split a lot of the cost between all the schools that come to the same workshops. So like when we do a room rental, I can split that cost between the 12 different schools. So, or if we bring in a speaker, 12 different schools are sharing the cost of that speaker. So, so it's really, it looks like a lot of money, but if we were using a one-to-one delivery model, it would be a lot more. So think about all the deliverables, all the online system, the survey, all those workshops. It really is kind of an expensive endeavor, but it's intense, and you're getting a lot of stuff, which we believe is why Lilly made these grants so big. They understand how much it costs to really design a brand new comprehensive system. Okay, a couple things we'll wrap down. Here's the timeline. So we are right here participating in this webinar. The application deadline is coming up. It's a very simple application. You can fill it out in 5 minutes. So that deadline is towards the end of the week. On Friday of this week, we'll notify schools that they've been accepted. And then for the accepted schools, there will be a workshop, face-to-face workshop on May 4th in Indianapolis to help your grant writer think about what to put in the application with regarding to language about Guiding All Kids. So we'll go through each step of the RFP. We'll provide some sample language, and we'll give the grant writer time to work on that section before we go on to the next section. So then Lilly's grant deadline is May 19th. Their award notification is September 30th. Now, we are having you apply for Guiding All Kids before you know if you have funding available to you. So if by chance you do not get the Lilly implementation grant or funding from other source and you have applied for the Lilly implementation grant, then we'll allow you to withdraw from Guiding All Kids without penalty, as long as it's happening before October 16th. So there's no risk involved financially if you apply for Guiding All Kids. If you do not get the Lilly grant, you don't owe us a penny. Now, that said, what we're going to do is between September 30th and October 16th, if any school has applied for Guiding All Kids and did not receive it, we will work with you for those 2 weeks to secure funding from another source. So we'll talk with you about community foundation or businesses and help you think about how to approach them. And I think by the time we get to September 30th, you'll be married to this initiative and really want to do it. And if you don't get the funding from Lilly, we'll help you think about where to get it from somewhere else and to kind of brainstorm and support you as you do that. Okay, so that's the timeline. The application can be found here on our website. So it's just you go to asainstitute.org/GAK and then click on application. And let me show you that application real quickly, and then we'll close. So I've gone to www.asainstitute.org/guidingallkids, GAK. That will bring me to the Guiding All Kids page. We're building this page as we speak. There will be much more to it as we go. But if you click over here in application, that'll bring up the application page. And this is basically very, very simple to do. All you're doing is putting in your contact person, and then as your name as the person completing the application, the name of the contact person in the school, a principal statement saying that's very short. We just want to make sure that the principal is aware of what's going on and that they understand what Guiding All Kids is and what you're getting involved in. So we're asking the principal to just explain, why is Guiding All Kids a good fit for your school? Is the district applying for the Lilly grant? Are all schools in your district applying for the Lilly grant? Yes, no, I don't know. Oh, one thing I forgot to say, and let me just go back real quickly. On the price that we're charging, let me just go back to that page. If your school, if your district has 12 or more schools enrolling in Guiding All Kids, we can lower this price. That allows us to do some economy of scale, and that we can lower that price. So if your entire district is applying, or there's more than 12 schools, please ask your district folks to call us about a special price for you guys. Okay, let's go back to the application. Okay, and then in the assurances, this is really what we think is very important, is that you're assuring that you have done these things, that you agree to these things, and that you've read and agree with the Memorandum of Understanding, which is down at the bottom, and then the billing contact. Now, in the Memorandum of Understanding, this is like a contract. It is a contract. And we're saying, okay, here are the deliverables that we're going to provide for your school. And this is our promise to you that over the next 4 years, we'll deliver these things. And then here's your promise to us. The enrolling school agrees to, and then make sure you read all of these things. If there's some that you don't understand or that there's a problem with, call us, let us talk those out. Because in most of these are just saying that you agree that you're going to work during the 4 years. It would be a waste of our time to engage with you if you're not going to follow through, just as it would be a waste of your time if we didn't follow through. So we basically want to promise you that we're going to do our stuff, and then we'd like you to promise us that you're going to do your stuff. So, okay, so that's it in a nutshell, and I guess I didn't pause for questions. I know I'm over on time. Let's take some questions and then we'll close. And please feel free to contact us if you do have questions. Okay, Debbie, questions?
I do not see any questions.
Okay, okay. Very good. Please contact us if you do have questions. You can reach us at phone 812-349-4142, 812-349-4142, or asai@asainstitute.org, and I'll just write that on here, asai@asainstitute.org, and then the phone is 812-349-4142. Okay, very good. Thanks, everyone. Good luck to you as you finish out the school year and as you get your ideas concrete for your Lily implementation applications. And again, please feel free to contact us if we can help in any way. If there's someone else in your district that you would like us to talk to, whatever, please feel free to ask. So thanks, everyone. We'll close.